is the best word you could probably use to describe being a sneakerhead. The status symbol of having just like the best trainers was just the most important thing to me from honestly about 9-10 years old. Finding that you get a bit obsessed with trying to find the one that you want. I don't know what it is, I just like bright colours, like different designs. And I think it's almost like a status symbol, having like the right gear on your feet. You can see people like 60 years old just wandering around like retro sneakers, because they would have been like middle-aged in the 80s when it started blowing up. You can fit so many different people. I think it's like ageless now. So I suppose it's like a nostalgic thing for a lot of people. I mean, for myself more than anyone, it's just like I'll see a shoe getting reissued that I haven't seen for about 20 years and I'll be like, oh my god, I need that. But with the sneaker thing, you get like, you could be a sneakerhead but into tennis, or you could be into basketball. And then you get guys like me that collects like, who just like everything. Even though it's one common interest like the shoe, you get a different shoe for each subculture. So whereas like if you look at subcultures such as like goth or punk or like a music-led culture, you tend to get the one style that runs with that. Even though it's a global thing, it's really small and close-knit. I think it's a social media like Twitter, Instagram. It's giving people a wider idea of what's actually out there. Is it a subculture, or is it just a sort of feed to a 1,000 different subcultures? It's crazy.
I've only been collecting in the last, let's say, 15 years that I've been working and selling vintage clothing for a living. But I've always been interested in Adidas, and I was probably buying my first pair when I was 11, 12, so I've probably had quite a few pairs all through the 80s. It was expensive. I mean, it's all relative, but my first pair of trainers were £10, but I was probably getting about £2.50 a week pocket money. So it's a month to get a pair of trainers. I probably own about 25 pairs, but they're 25 pairs that I'm passionate about. I could have owned more, as I've had big Adidas collections in the past, but they were not my size, so they were bought to sell. If they'd been my size, I'd have had a problem. I'd have had a massive collection. I collect all sorts of things. I mean, not just footwear, clothing. I wear most of mine, to be honest with you. The only ones I don't wear are them, because there's one of 500 and I don't think I'd wear them, but they represent a lot of money, so that's why they're worn. I'm lucky sometimes I find it at the right price. I mean, this pair here, £300 on eBay, but I picked them up for £25 because I do it for a living. I like plain because plain doesn't go out of fashion. I've always been like, less fussy the better. I mean, some fussy things do end up becoming very, very collectible. I mean, the Nike Omega Flame, they were a classic, 1985. It turned from flame red to yellow. Everyone went, they're rubbish, they'll never catch on. Funnily enough, them shoes are now £1,000 a pair.
Was you wearing them on the way in? Yeah, I was. Bright, aren't they?
Shut up, they're nice.
I think it's just always been massive. I think it's more mainstream. I think that a lot of people have had to get onto it because it's a good way to make money, nostalgia. It's weird, if you go in a sports shop now, it's like a sports shop from 30 years ago. But for me, the quality's not quite the same, so it's a bit strange. They were just using better materials, and these shoes are here 30, 35, 40 years on, and they're still amazing. Mancunians really love Adidas because of all the history of the past, you know, shops like Oasis in the underground market that had all the best shoes, and they were like £50, £60 a pair in 83, 84, and that shop's legendary. Talk to anybody my age and they'll mention Oasis because everyone wanted to buy trainers from there. Everything was like wrapped in cling film so that they didn't get dirty, and they were all expensive. I just think it's always had its own style because of the city that it is. It's to do with music, it's to do with being an industrial city, it's to do with like people wanting to be individuals, you know, they used to save up or they used to go abroad and five-finger discount. It just depends on how they were getting it. It didn't matter to them as long as it could look good. It was kind of always about looking good. and being an individual. You know, you don't want to be part of the establishment, you want to be like you, an individual, and that's really what sort of Mancunian fashion represents to me. I think people just like the sort of the era of when all that product came from, because it was like, you know, it was very, very like high watermark of creativity, and there was so much going on that we all took it for granted. We thought it was going to be like that forever, but it really was. You know, I think just the style, even, you know, forget about casual terrace, hip-hop, you know, hip-hop style was like more what I'm into than terrace wear. I mean, I was a Perry boy. I was into like Fred Perry stuff when I was like 8, 9, 10. That wasn't terrace, that was like Perry boys. So it's like that crossovery thing, and then, you know, I got into hip-hop early on, and then Adidas has always had a massive part to play in sort of hip-hop culture. Again with Puma and Nike, but they're doing it to just buy and make money. I don't really agree with that, because it's turning everything into just, what's the word, like a commodity. Whereas I thought it was just about buying a pair of trainers and looking good. You know, if you want to deal in like commodities, just get into stocks and shares. You know, leave trainers alone, but they all do it because it's an easy way to make money.
Probably about 18 months ago, I had a lot of spare time on my hands, so and I had a lot of trainers, so I decided to start cataloguing them. I'm also part of a group on Facebook called AOA, so that's Adidas Only Addiction, and they brought out a book based on collectors that were part of the group, submitting their top 5s and giving a bit of a bio about how they got into collecting, so on and so forth. I'd since shelved what I was doing because, you know, life gets in the way. And then when the book came out, I saw how popular it became. So I decided that I'd continue with the cataloguing I was doing and actually turn it into a book myself. It was a bit nerve-wracking bringing something like that out and having it judged by your peers. But, you know, I've been really grateful that it's been well received. You know, I've always owned Adidas trainers. A lot of the rarer pairs that I'd sought for many years had suddenly become available, and I just got a little bit carried away, to be honest with you. And it's got past the stage of just having a passing interest in the brand and enjoying the trainers, and now I collect not just to wear but to own. Okay. I've currently got around 150, 160. Okay. I used to have them all over the house. Now they're up in the loft, or the vast majority of them are, as well as the ones that I hide from the missus that get delivered. You know, that's probably where I'm up to at the minute in terms of volumes. The first pair I ever owned as a kid, and a lot of Adidas collectors, or even just lads that had trainers back then, will have had, was a pair of Adidas Kick. They were cheap, cheerful pair, tenner a pair, you know, everybody seems to have them. The first ones I remember physically going out and buying with my own money was probably around 1984 when I was about 13. I'd saved up and got myself a pair of ZX 500s. So it was ZX 500s, and then shortly after 280s. Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, you know, you just put them on and wear them. Looking back, I wish I'd have kept hold of a lot of the pairs that I'd owned. But no, you don't as a kid. Now you appreciate things a little bit more when you're older. Collecting, just buying, just getting into having and owning Adidas trainers really came through being at the football, going out with the lads, wanting to have the latest pair, the one that everybody else wanted, and from there on in, it's a slippery slope. I've always really stuck to Adidas. I mean, I think the thing with me is it's always really been about the terrace trainers, something that Nike, for me, never really interested me, other than possibly a pair of Nike Omega Flames that I wouldn't mind owning to this day. Adidas trainers were almost like a code for it as a uniform, so they could be recognised by other football lads that they were part of their group. Manchester bands, including, you know, people like Ian Brown with the Superstars, Sean Ryder with the Country, the Gallaghers, they'd normally be sporting tobaccos and kick. You know, they were keeping the brand going. Some of the rarer releases, like for example the Ardwick release that was done over at Oi Polloi in 2014. There are a lot of people who genuinely want the trainers who are prepared to queue up overnight for these things. I think it's like any addiction, to be perfectly honest with you. I think once you're in, and it's very difficult to get out of. Once you go past the 20-30 pairs of trainers mark, it's very difficult to get out of. It becomes less of a hobby and more of a, I don't know, an affliction or an addiction, if you like. You know, it's not just about the look of the shoes for me. A lot of the time it's about the stories, or particularly with the older ones, remembering it, taking you back to the sort of things that you used to get up to when you used to wear a pair of those. And it's about respect, it's about looking out for one another, being able to deal with people that you know that you can trust. It's just, again, it's a difficult one to explain. It's just you're part of it.
I've been collecting Nikes and Jordans probably about 4.5 years now, on and off. Started off pretty slowly, but I'd say it's got a bit more intense now. In total, maybe about 70 pairs, but I've cut down at the moment to about 45, 46 pairs, I reckon. Just having like what other people don't, just like trying to have something unique and different. That's what I strive for, really. If I'm buying a pair, it doesn't have to necessarily be a limited release or anything, but I want it to be something that I find nice in myself. I like it, and then maybe if anyone else doesn't have it, that's a bonus, really. The feeling of getting something new, you can't really match it. You want to keep that feeling, but then it's on to the next pair. Never really ends. A couple of friends really through social media, people not through my own friendship group, I'd say. It's people I knew via social media and nearby to where I was. They were like pushing it, not pushing it onto me, I'd say. They were buying traders, showing them off on Instagram via social media, and through like the rise of social media, I'd say I kind of like followed onto it a bit. Buying pairs to keep, it was when I realised how big like the culture for sneakers truly was, like how many releases came out yearly, how many old releases had gone prior. Just like a constant scene of keeping up with what's been there and what's coming out. That's how I kind of noticed the change. We're talking the quality's completely changed. People just want to, people want to buy into Air Max nowadays, and they don't understand that previously it was about the shape, it was about the material, it was about the quality, and you were paying for something that was, more of a quality product than it is now. It's what's on trend, that's the biggest change, especially with social media. The rise in people buying, from what I've seen, like hyped pairs, to comparing it to when people used to buy what they like, is a big change. People like the attention, they like to have, oh, you've got this, you've got that, I haven't got this, I haven't got that. It makes it harder for us to buy anything, especially if you have to go camp or online releases in particular. If there's more younger people, they're always a bit more savvy on that kind of thing, and they're going to go for it, they're going to get ahead of you, let's say. It does make it a bit more stressful in a way. It's just being something different, just being part of something that you enjoy, and like you've learned a bit about being in it in yourself. Like you've learned about the culture more and more. You meet people through it, especially like you meet so many different kinds of people, different tastes. That's what I'd say mainly.